I just don't have them.
Okay,
and tonight.
As long as we're addressing constituents, if I could just backtrack for a second in terms of what Ray said about the Ilokai, and this is slightly out of order, and I apologize, but I did ask one of our constituents to come who and I voted against the liquor license, as we all did, but just so we're clear, I am told that not everybody in the neighborhood necessarily felt that way, and that apparently there are people who were very supportive of what they were doing and expressed concern to me that perhaps there might have been a lot of Local 5 activity that was perhaps fomenting some of the opposition. And so I don't really know what the truth is for sure, and I still think that we did the right thing by sending a message that people need to talk to the community. But to the extent that this thing may have been a labor issue more than other things, I certainly hope that we were not inadvertently pulled into that. So it's something I think to keep an eye on in the future. And this was brought to my attention by a constituent that I had just run into. Okay, thank you.
Comment? There was one woman who emailed, I think it was Mike Peters or Chair Finley, or Barbara or somebody from Discovery Bay. That's the only one who documented being for it. Now, the majority of the people who signed up against that particular situation for a liquor license has no problem. Eventually there'll be a restaurant there, nice quiet dining, dinner, music, but the fact that this particular applicant gave no input to anyone in the area is what came down and killed them. Question to Keith, next. Can I continue?
I think it's I just want to add something real little to this. I think it's important to understand about, even though they were denied their liquor license, I know for a fact there's other venues in that district that are lining up to apply for a liquor license. One 4 o'clock license and another 2 o'clock. So there's other license coming on the pike here. The same fight will be coming again and again. So I'm glad that Lou said that to being that it might have been a Local 5 issue or not, we don't know. But just to keep the issue open to all the residents and people in that district, because there's some other people who are going to apply for license too. Thank you.
There's a Buffalo Wings going to be on the first floor of Discovery Bay. They're mentioning that they're going to have live entertainment, recording entertainment, probably karaoke, and they're more or less telling the people, hey, we're going to have music and it's going to be dancing. But at least we know it, and I don't think I haven't heard anyone objecting. The fact that you had a pig in a poke, to quote Galen Fox's terminology, this particular applicant was giving everyone a pig in a poke. Now, I just perusing my pile of stuff here, I'm noticing, since the Liquor Commission is under the jurisdiction of the city and county, there's a House bill and a Senate bill. Liquor Commission can enforce smoking laws in bars. After our proceedings at the Liquor Commission Thursday was over, I stayed the rest of the afternoon just seeing how things were run down there, because I've heard a lot of bad things. I thought they did a good job. And then just before they went into executive session, their chief investigator had mentioned they had been getting a lot of complaints about people smoking in the bars. So in an off-the-record comment, and I'll mention it here tonight, I think a lot of people sitting on this board are aware that HPD has not enforced the smoking law since it went on the books for one excuse or another. However, they did arrest an individual at the Irish Rose Bar, since the case has been dismissed, taken out in handcuffs, held in a jail cell for 6 or 7 hours before the individual was released in her, it was a female, her own recognizance. The judge said that this was a travesty. She gave the defendant at the time a letter stating this is one of the worst matters she's ever had to handle. So here you've got a smoking law that has never been enforced. When the individual at the bar complained about cigarette smoke, she's the one who got locked up. And the charge was failing to leave a liquor establishment. The bartender said, get out of here. All these people smoking are the ones that give me a tip every night. You're not supporting me, they are. And while they're waiting for the police to come, I'm told by this individual that the ashtrays were put away, cigarette butts were removed from the floor. So I mentioned there's no smoking at that same license premise last month's meeting, where my massage therapist, my shoulder still hurts, she's not doing a good job. her and a girlfriend went upstairs. They stayed 15 seconds. The cigarette smoke smell was just too much for them. So somebody should be enforcing these things. As I left my building this evening, coming up in a meeting, there's probably a chef from either the Chart House or the Red Lobster. He's sitting on the bottom of my step, puffing away. I says, please, sir, it's against the law. Please move with your cigarette. If you call 911 for a smoking violation, if they come a half hour later, that cigarette's long been extinguished. But hopefully there'll be somebody else sitting and smoking at the same place. I think I said enough.
Thank you.
Just to add a little bit to what Ray was saying,
Ray said a lot.
Tom Brower's pushing through the smoking ban on the beaches, which I support. I myself support it. But if we can't seem to get enforcement in smoking in the bars in Waikiki at the expense of the taxpayers that are paying to have these laws passed, and they're not being enforced, I think it's fair to say that the taxpayer is losing their money on a law that's not being enforced. So the real question is, can we support Tom Brower's smoking ban on the beach, which I do, and have it enforced? Or does it fall as a lame duck sort of, and we waste the taxpayers' money again with a law that we cannot enforce? I think this is an important question to bring up, and I'll mention it again to Tom if he comes down here. I see Brickwood's here.
Thank you.
Just have one more thing to add to my list for next month, and that is the status of all the public fountains. I've yet to see one that is functional. And primarily the surfer guy over here on the way to Queens Surf, that fountain has not been operational in 2 or 3 years. And the big one for me, because I jog by it, is the main one where Kuhio splits with Kalakaua. I don't understand that's the entrance to Waikiki, and that's what we got to do. Those have to be operational. That's part of our setup here. And then also the one over here by Alawai. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But I'd like all those to be functioning year-round, or I want some explanation why they're not.
And at least clean. Mike?
I'll add it to your list.
You know, regarding a homeless czar or a point person for homeless in the city, you said San Francisco was still having problems of its own. Things have actually gotten better. It's not as bad as it used to be. And secondly, it's always really going to be a bigger challenge in a city like San Francisco because it's on the mainland and it's a warm weather city. So I don't think we should compare their dilemma to ours too much. So I really support this idea, though, of a point person for homeless in the city level. Thank you.
I'll take that to the mayor.
Ray, I thought you...
I know I said I was shutting up, but this one was what I really had on my mind when I picked the mic up. With the Liquor Commission, I guess evidently they don't know whether they're allowed to issue a ticket when they're in a bar and they see somebody smoking. They think it's HPD's job. Couldn't the mayor issue a directive for any law enforcement, be it police officer, peace officer, sheriff, health department inspector, anyone with the authority to write a ticket? If you want to say citation, that's a fancy word. But why, if a city employee or a state employee sees a violation and they're at the scene, John Q. Public is saying, what the hell, why can't this guy do something? And let them give it whatever the violation is, even though it's not a fireman, open with these people in the park. They've got 2 news stories. In the back of both news stories, I saw an open fire. It wasn't in a barbecue. It was burning on the grass. Fire department could be called to put the fire out. But a fireman can also, I think, give a ticket for an unlicensed or unregulated campfire. Would they be camping with a campfire? I do not know.
I don't know the answer to your question, but I'll find out.
But no, all departments should be working together. Somebody dials 911. I got a beef. If they all have communication devices, and maybe HPD's tied up on a busy thing. If there's somebody from the Department of Health and an individual is urinating on the grass, can't they give them one for noxious liquid on the ground or something? I mean, heaven forbid I should look at the laws for the state of Hawaii, because then I would never shut up, because I haven't yet.
That's